I'm way too drunk to be climbing on this shit. Down, down, down she goes. Where she stops, nobody knows. Well, that's enough of that bullshit. Let's go work on old computers. I wanted to blow this thing out before I went back to the house. This is a PS2 Model 3286 from the Los Angeles County Unified School District, and it is filthy inside. Yeah, nasty. It smells like cigarettes and communism in there. Potato phone, let's do this. Oh. Well, the smell of communism is gone at least. I'm not afraid to take it into my house now. Alright, I'll be back in a minute. Alright, here on top we have the PS2 Model 25, the original Model 25, the 8086, with the color display and a single 720K floppy drive. This is the machine, one of my very favorite machines. Yes, they are lovely, lovely boxing. They were IBM's answer to the all-in-one Macintosh back in 86 or 87, 87 I think. Now down here is the filthy beast that we were blowing out just a second ago. And oh, it has some issues, but this is a PS2 Model 30 286. Now, this is the original Model 30 was also an 8086, just like the Model 25, and they used exactly the same motherboards. There was a 286 version of the PS2 Model 25, but it is extremely rare. However, there were many, many, many Model 30 286s made. They're like everywhere, right? And hopefully the one that you find is in better condition than this one. But the motherboards are still the same size. Supposedly, this will be the first time I've ever tried this, the Model 30 286 motherboard will drop right in to the Model 25 8086. So you'd think that that would be a great way to upgrade these beautiful, beautiful Model 25s. But it turns out that there are some problems with doing that, which we will investigate here in a moment. There was also a Model 25 SX that was a 386, which is even more rare than the 286 Model 25. So the goal of this project is to upgrade my beautiful beast to a 286. And before you scream at me for scrapping a perfectly good, albeit in severe need of TLC, Model 3286, just for the motherboard, worry not, I have a separate Model 3286 motherboard right there, which will be the one that actually goes in the Model 25. I just need to get this one working so that I can figure out some bus pinouts and shit like that. There is a schematic available for the Model 30 286 on the internet, but it's got some mistakes in it, so I need to double check this. And I'm trying to collect Model 30s and Model 25s anyway, so this will be fun to fix up. Anyway, let me disassemble the PS2 Model 25. There's another video on that. So if you're interested in like more details about it, you know, watch that one, even though it's shitty. So yeah, I'll be right back. Yeah. So yeah, to get these apart, you lay them down face first on something soft, and you just remove these two screws. They're flatheads. Thanks, IBM. Once the screws are out, let me move my booze here. Once the screws are out, you just lift this whole planar module up and it folds down like this. And I like to extend the ratcheting foot there so it has something to set on. And then once it's folded down like that, this is our video connection right here. We can unplug that. Voila. We can unplug our power connection over here, like so. Now these Molex power connectors here, these are a later addition by me. There's actually heat shrink under this tape, don't worry, it's not super hacky. So I was originally running an IDE zip drive in this thing with an XT IDE card, and the second one was to power a Raspberry Pi at an expansion card that I never actually got around to making. So that's what those are for. The stock PS2 models 25 and 30 supply power to both their disk drives and their super proprietary 8-bit weird-ass hard drives over the ribbon cable. So that's an issue when you need to replace those. So once we get the cables disconnected, we can remove the entire planar by squeezing these two tabs here, and then the whole thing just comes out like that. So that'll be a lot easier to work with now on the desk. So I'm going to carefully set the big ass like monitor unit aside here for later. So yeah, here's the PS2 Model 25 8086 system board. It has 512K of RAM in 30-pin SIMs here, and you can optionally socket another 128K of discrete RAM in these sockets here. That's in a previous video, to give you a total of 640K of base RAM. This is the proprietary floppy drive interface. It is possible to buy or make adapters to use regular floppy disk drives with this floppy interface, but you do have to splice in a power cable like we saw before, because these supply power over the ribbon cable. And this is the super duper proprietary hard drive interface that nobody knows anything about. So there's no way that anybody that knows of, that I know of, to hook like a CF card or an IDE hard drive or anything up to this port. It's just a proprietary port that nobody knows anything about, so it's basically useless unless you happen to have that funny 8-bit drive that goes on that interface. And it also gets power over the ribbon cable. So yeah, that's that. Now let's take the cover off of the Model 3286 and compare the boards. Oh, but I almost forgot. This is the expansion riser. Note that there are two 8-bit ISA slots there, and it fits into this bracket like so, and then the whole thing plugs down in there into that slot like that, and then the expansion cards go in over here. So that's two 8-bit ISA slots in the PS2 Model 25 8086, and the rest of this board is unused, and that will be useful to us later. Now, in the PS2 Model 30, which uses the as far as I know, I may be full of shit, but as far as I know, the PS2 Model 30 uses exactly the same motherboard, but a different expansion riser. The pinout on the riser is the same, of course, but it's got 3 slots, and it also has a nickel-cadmium battery on here that powers the real-time clock when the power is off through one of these pins. I think it's this one right here, that is not connected on the PS2 Model 25 riser. So I'm not sure why they didn't include a clock battery in the Model 25, but they did in the Model 30. But I guess that's good, because PS2 Model 25s that you find on eBay probably aren't going to have an exploded battery inside of them. Model 30s, you better make sure there are pictures of the inside before you buy one, in my opinion. Alright, let's open up the Model 30 now. We'll set my beautiful boy aside for the moment. And here is the filthy bastard the filthy communist bastard itself, the PS2 Model 3286 from LA. Yes, and I already have the screws loose. It doesn't use flathead screws, it uses 2 captive Torx screws. What a pain in the ass. Yes, and here we are. The PS2 Model 25, PS2 Model 30, 286 system. Note that this one does have one of those proprietary disk drives in it. I have no idea if it works. I've never tried to power this thing up. You and I are getting into this thing at the same time at first. Yeah, so here's the expansion riser for the 286 Model 25, or Model 30 I should say. Alright, now note that it has 3 16-bit ISA slots on it, and if we compare that to the riser out of the Model 25, it is obvious that these are not interchangeable. We won't be able to use this in this motherboard. I'm going to have to completely disassemble this thing to try to clean it up and fix some bent shit and all this stuff, so let's just go ahead and do that. Here's some janky-assed power switch bullshit. Look at that stuff. It's got a, yeah, what? That's kind of strange, so I'm going to have to remove that thing without breaking it. That may be easier said than done. Am I doing this right? Is the internet screaming at me right now? Probably. Now I'm going to put this aside where I will immediately forget where it is and lose it. Excellent. Now, what is next? So these drives are on happy little sleds. You push up on a tab, I think. Yeah, they slide forward. I have to disconnect this floppy cable. The pin 1 is on this side. Note to self when I go to put it back together. Alright. Well, that's different than the Model 25. Well, the hard drive, the floppy drive uses a pin header, and the hard drive uses an edge connector. Isn't that trippy? Pretty weird, man. Pretty weird. I just want to get this plastic off of here, and then we're going to put the thing back together and try it if nothing looks obviously fucked up. This is a 45 megabyte disk drive according to the sticker. It's a Seagate. Huh, neat. I hope it works. If it does, maybe I can trade it for another floppy drive to somebody, because I'm going to use CF cards in both of them. Here on the side, there is a lock. This was locked when I had the machine apart before to blow the shit out of it, and I had to yank a metal tab past here and bend it to get it to come out, but fortunately it didn't break anything, and I was able to take the lock apart and rearrange it so that it was unlocked. But that's kind of annoying. It's tempting to just not put it back in, but then there'll be a big hole in the side of the case, so I'll probably put it back anyway, even though it's a annoying son of a bitch. Now note that the 286 version has an extra power connector, this little one here. According to the schematic, this little connector only has 5 volts and ground on it, and it only goes to the 16-bit portion of the expansion bus. So yeah, that'll be an issue later, but I think we can deal with it in a interesting way. So note that this is exactly the same video connector as is on the PS2 Model 25. They just ran it to this panel mount port here instead of building it into the mainboard. Exactly the same mainboard as far as I know. Oh, well, isn't that slick? Huh. All right. PS2 Model 30 286 system board. Rock and roll. So these little conical doohickeys that push through these holes and snap out there, they break really easily. In fact, half of the ones on the back were already broken, I think. And the board smells like vinegar too, which is strange because there's no exposed battery on this thing that would have needed any base neutralization for battery leakage anyway. So I don't know what's going on with that. I think somebody's been into this thing because the shit was just put together really jankily and stuff. I don't know, man. It's good that we rescued this machine. So yeah, those conical things that I was talking about, if you've got a small enough nut driver, you can push that over top of them, and it helps release them through the hole. It like compresses them back in, you know, so you can get them back through the hole without breaking them sometimes. Then there it went. It's still a pain in the ass though. I wish they wouldn't make stuff that latches like that. Oh, hallelujah. What a pain in the ass, but we did get it off of there without damaging anything, so that's good. Now look at this plastic thing sticking out here. I'll bet you that's easy to break off of there. We'll have to be awful careful with that thing when we're cleaning it up. So, yeah, that's the first time that I've disassembled a PS2 Model 30, and I have to say that one of the things that I love about the PS2 Model 25 is that it's just so pleasant to work on. It comes apart easily. The enclosure is incredibly well designed, but the PS2 Model 30 was an absolute nightmare. That's kind of interesting. But looking at these two boards next to each other, the ports all line up the same. The mounting holes all line up the same. The only difference is the 8086 version has this PC speaker audio output jack, a great big old fucking 1/4-inch phono jack, and the Model 30 lacks that. So let's try them now that we've disassembled everything and see what happens. Now the thing was sold as power tested. We all know what that means when you get something off of eBay, but if you look right here, you'll see the infamous Dallas real-time clock, the 1287 real-time clock, and these are basically a, I wonder if I can pull that without fucking something up. These real-time clocks are basically a real-time clock IC with a crystal oscillator and a battery built into them. So basically they do what amounts to bending some of these pins up inside of here, and there's a crystal oscillator back here and a battery up here. It's all sealed. It's a lithium battery, and it's all sealed and potted in epoxy. So these are cool because the batteries won't leak on your board. The problem is the batteries go bad over time, and then the system won't keep time, and it also happens that this module is also what stores the CMOS settings for the 286 version, and the DS1287 clock chip is no longer manufactured. However, the 12887 is still manufactured, and it is pin compatible with the old 1287. The only difference is the 12887 implements an extra register to make it, I think the extra register makes it Y2K compliant. But of course that register is only useful if the software that you're using supports that register. So, you know, it should work in the board, the 12887. Whether it remains Y2K compliant or not when it's in the board is anyone's guess, but I'll bet you $1 that this thing is bad, and that may be an issue, but I'm going to plug it back into the socket. See, on a lot of boards these are soldered on too, which makes it an extra pain in the ass, but it's in an IC socket on this board, make it really easy to change, pretty cool. So Let me set the Model 25 planer aside here, and we will try out this board. Okay, so here is an IBM, what is it, 8513 monitor. This thing literally came out of a crawl space underneath of an abandoned building, and after the guy gave it to me, I tested it to power on, and it didn't explode. Other than that, I'm not sure if it works or not, and it's been sitting in the storage compartment for like, I don't know, 7 years or something like that, so I dug it out just for this because this is the proper monitor to go with a PS2 Model 30. So let's see if any smoke comes out. Well, the power LED came on, and I can feel the static. The high voltage is working. Alright, I've got everything plugged into the motherboard. What do you think's going to happen, boys? You think it's going to blow up? I think something's going to blow up. Let's try it. Well, it's testing RAM. Oh wow, these things came stock with a 1 megabyte of RAM, but this one's been expanded. It's got 2 megabytes of RAM in it. Snazzy. Now what's going to happen though? 301 is a keyboard error. 161, no. One of those is probably the real-time clock. Oh, you know why we're getting a keyboard error? Because I forgot to plug in the keyboard. Oh, now that's interesting. I don't have anything. Maybe I've got that plugged into the wrong port. On the PS2 Model 25, I didn't think it mattered which port you plugged it into, but maybe it does on this 286 version. Alright, I switched ports, and we seem to have keyboard now. If I hit F1, it'll probably dump us to ROM Basic. There the disk drive's seeking again. It's trying to boot. That disk drive is. Oh, the disk drive works! I wonder why it didn't auto boot. Oh, probably because the RTC's bad and it saves the system settings. So if we... That's cool! That disk drive works, man! I did not think it would. So, 5th Generation Systems presents Direct Access. Got this 16 color VGA graphics action going on here. WordPerfect 5.1 keyboarding instructor utilities. Nice. F10 exit to DOS. Enter password for exit to DOS. Oh. Well, I guess we're gonna have to find a boot floppy, aren't we? Well, that's cool. The hard drive works, guys. It works. That is rare. Most of those disk drives are dead. Most of them are door stops nowadays. That's cool. And that's still an 8-bit hard drive. That'll work in the 8086 Model 25 too. The interface, or at least according to the schematics, looks exactly the same to me. Nice! Nice! Okay, I'm going to power it off. I'm going to power it back on again and see if it still gives us errors that I assume are RTC errors, and then I'll try replacing that and see what happens. Alright, the new RTC's slotted in there. Now, I bought this from a US seller instead of from China, so hopefully it is actually new. The 12887's still been around a while, so it's possible that you can, have somebody sell you one that's used and already has a dead battery, so look out for that. Let's see if we get those same errors now. Okay, we're still getting the 161 and 163 errors. That may just be because there's no way to get to DOS on this hard drive to set the system date and time. Yeah, That CPU's running a little warm. I'm gonna stick a heatsink on him just to try to preserve him a little bit. Yeah, alright. I'm gonna have to get a boot floppy or something to mess with this more. So let's try the other board and see if it works. Yeah, so this board I think is extremely questionable. Already we can see that it looks a lot cleaner, but we can see a problem immediately. Notice anything missing right there? That's where that clock chip's supposed to go. But I do have one more, so let's socket that before we even try to start the thing. I'm not gonna plug anything in yet. I'm just gonna try to power it up. Maybe I ought to plug the monitor in. I mean, that won't hurt anything if something goes kaboom. Okay, so this board appears to work too. CPU's getting warm on this one too, so that must be normal. This one's only got 1 megabyte of RAM, and the video's a little flaky here, and I can't get it to boot from a floppy. I think the floppy drive needs serviced though. It's very stiff putting disks in, so I'm gonna take it apart and clean it and lube it some other time. The most exciting thing that's gonna need to be done to make this work is we're gonna have to make a 16-bit riser of the same form factor as the 8-bit riser. It'll just have this. It'll just have the longer connector on it and 16-bit slots, and it'll have to fit in the PS2 model 258086's bracket, which is going to require cutting a little bit of this off so that 16-bit cards will fit in that top slot. And there's still going to be a little bit of space left on this board here. So if I can find some way to make a little more space, like if I can make this a little taller, or if I can put a daughter board on here, I think it would be pretty cool to try to put an IDE or a compact flash interface on here, like an XTCF interface, because I think we can do all of the address decoding with a surface mount GAL, which will be very small. We'll have to have a boot ROM, but we can get surface mount boot ROMs too. And then we'll also need we'll need the connector, the IDE connector. It's a big 40-pin header that'll just barely fit on here, I think. It'll be tight regardless. It may be a losing proposition. See, like, it's a shame that the Model 25 only has 2 expansion slots, because you kind of need a hard drive, since you can't get hard drives for that proprietary interface. I mean, we've got one, but I'm not going to keep using it because it'll die one of these days. We need a hard drive or CF card interface. We need a sound card, and we need a network card. And that's 3 cards for 2 expansion slots. So if we could somehow build the hard drive interface onto the riser, or the CF interface I should say, because then we don't have to have wait states and shit like that. It simplifies the circuitry a lot. Then you know, we'd have a slot for a sound card and a slot for a network card. Now, there are some very difficult to find, and they're getting expensive nowadays, but I think I've actually got one in the Prolania there. They made sound blasters with an IDE interface on them, but they had no boot ROM, right? But you can put an XD-IDE boot ROM on the PXE ROM socket on a network card and use it to boot the IDE interface on a non-plug-and-play sound blaster with an IDE interface. So that would be 2 cards and get us all 3 functions, which may end up being what we have to do if we just can't fit anything else on the riser. But yeah, we'll have to have a PC board manufactured for the riser. I can't build that on the proto board. We've got to have the edge connector and all that shit. So that'll be exciting. And yeah, then we'll also have a Model 30 to play with. And we could actually get a good bit more space on this riser. But we've already got 3 expansion slots on it, but we could put more stuff on that. But you know what I think would be really interesting is a replacement riser for the 8086 models 30 and 25. That would give you the XTCF, maybe. We'd have a lot more space to work with then. I mean, all this unused area here. We could have the CF card interface, and we could also put another 512K of RAM on the riser. Give the thing a megabyte, then you could load all your device drivers in high memory. That would really help on an 8086. These 286s generally came with a meg anyway, but only 640K possible on the 8086 versions without using one of the expansion slots. So anyway, yeah, that would require another board to be fabricated, but learning KiCad is fun, so plans. Alright, so I ended up taking the double density floppy drive out of the Model 25 and hooking it up here, and I was then able to boot an MS-DOS 6.22 floppy, assist the hard drive, and copy a new DOS directory over and get around that bullshit. That was locking us out of the hard drive. I don't see anything that looks promising as far as a CMOS setup program. See, there was a floppy that came with these that you had to use to change the CMOS settings. There isn't any ROM-based CMOS setup. So if I can't locate those utilities on this hard drive somewhere, I'll end up having to find those on the internet somewhere, and I guess the easiest thing to do would be to copy them to a CF card and then just boot that CF card long enough to reset the CMOS settings. So yeah, the other weird thing about this board, this is not the board out of the machine, this is the board that I got separately. The PC speaker doesn't seem to be working. So yeah, I think I got had on my real-time clocks. Now this one here works fine. This one here, the internal battery is dead. This one works fine on both boards. If you look at both of them, it looks like they've both got December 2017 date codes on them. So that's, I mean, that's not ancient. This one here's got a 1991 November date code on it, the one that came out of the other board to begin with. But yeah, this one right here doesn't seem to be working. Thanks, eBay. So much for trying to order from American sellers so you don't get had. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I hope you didn't get too bored, and I will see you next time.